Hello, friends, and welcome to Pod Return to the Waking Sands. We are a Final Fantasy XIV companion podcast where we explore the lore and story
of Hildibrand and beyond.
I was wondering what you were doing. You're sitting there with this look on your face. I'm like, it looks like he wants to interrupt me already.
Got her.
All right, I will allow it.
Thank you.
But yeah, today is the start of the
You're Jen.
Hildibrand stuff. Oh, I'm Jen.
I'm Levi.
And he's Levi.
And what Jen said.
I've been completely derailed. I don't remember any of the other things that I normally say.
Nothing.
So
we're doing it.
All right, great.
We're doing it, Jen. Well, Jen, how you doing?
Why?
Because it's polite.
You don't care. You're just doing it to
keep
up appearances. I see. Fine. Tired. It's been a busy
weekend for you.
It's been a busy summer, but yeah, this weekend in particular has been ridiculous.
You're going to a concert after this, Jen.
I am. Yeah, I'm going to see Broken Social Scene.
So you mainlined Hildibrand today, got mad at how long it was.
Yeah, it took twice as long as I thought.
I didn't think it was that long, personally.
Yeah, it took me about 3 hours.
Huh. Did you take a lot of notes?
Yeah, I took the normal amount of notes.
Okay.
But it just because, I mean, there's a lot of
stuff there.
There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of funny things being said, funny things being animated, and
I agree.
All these little subtle things that produce the totality that is Hildibrand.
Well, let's stop talking about it and start talking about it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so the Hildibrand Quest series. For the uninitiated, Hildibrand is a humor-centric side storyline that is also bizarrely canon. It centers around the misadventures of detective extraordinaire Hildibrand Manderville and his assistant, Nashu Makaraka.
Yep, beloved son, Hildibrand Manderville.
It's kind of a riff on the incompetent but successful detective archetype, such as Inspector Clouseau from the Pink Panther.
And Inspector Gadget.
That too.
Yeah.
But no gadgets here. Just good old-fashioned intuition.
I think Nashu has some gadgets. She has her, her delights. I'll call that a gadget.
Fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Inspector Hildibrand is a dapper Highlander sporting a monocle and black coatee adorned with a red rose. Though born to House Manderville, he elected to go off on his own adventures rather than carry on the family business. His assistant, Nashu Makaraka, is a keeper. What was that face?
No, I just swallowed hard. You swallow too much and your throat expands and it hurts.
I understand it. I know the feeling, and it hurts.
Yeah, and it goes all the way down. You can feel it just pushing your insides out. Anyway.
Well, back to the topic, Jen. Nashu Makaraka is a keeper of the moon Mikote. Her distinguishing mark is a perpetually bandaged scar on her cheek.
Oh.
You've never noticed the bandage?
No, I noticed it in the beginning of this when she's, she's kneeling in front of his grave or whatever, and I'm like, oh, she's got a Band-Aid. I never noticed that persists.
Yep.
I don't typically look at her face too closely.
Wow, rude.
So,
she was orphaned in Gardania at a young age and barely scraped by. But she met Hildibrand while working as a maid in a small tavern. Her place of employment had been burgled. Nashu wrongly accused and innocent of the crime, but Hildibrand stumbled in to see justice done. And from that day on, she became his biggest fan and trusty assistant.
Nice.
For me, Jen, I first came across Hildibrand by pure chance. I was doing my blue quests like you're supposed to, and I just clicked on this quest line like any other quest. And I expected it to be a little bit of story before something gets unlocked, but it kept going and going and going. And it wasn't until I got to the scene at the end of this episode that I began to understand the purpose of Hildibrand was to unlock more Hildibrand.
Yeah. Yeah, when you get the title splash or whatever, finally you're like, oh my god, okay. I don't know what I'm doing. What's happening? Who are these people? What the fuck? It was very confusing when I first did it.
Yep.
I was like, tonally, this is really fucking weird.
There's nothing to make this appear different from anything else in the game. It burns very slow too.
Yep.
So it's a little bit surreal, but not too much so beyond some of the weird stuff in A Realm Reborn. So it's not until you actually get to the finale of today that's like, oh shit, this is like a thing.
Right. It's a thing.
I was going pretty fast then because I was like, okay, so let's get to the unlock here. Why is this taking so long? 3 hours later or whatever, Jen.
Yeah.
But then I got it and I began to slow down and enjoy it for its own sake.
Huzzah.
The Hildibrand story began back in the 1.0 days, first appearing in the In-Room Unlock quest. His main feature was a story that also sets up the introduction to A Realm Reborn, Hildibrand. He takes it upon himself to solve the prophecy about the warriors of light who will save us from Dalamud. He sets his sights upon a retired adventurer who is now a farmer. Thinking that he's helping to get a hero back in action, he gets roped into various farm chores. Meanwhile, his sidekick Nashu finds a rusted gun halberd out in the field. The farmer apparently bought it to break up chunks of earth. This weapon still has some powder left in it, and Hildibrand sets it off while experimenting with the weapon, sending him blasting into the heavens and towards Dalamud itself. And that's the end for Hildibrand. He crashed back down to earth and died. Rip.
Yeah, that's not at all how it was sold to us today.
Hildibrand now deceased, we move on to the adventures of Inspector Nashu.
Okay, so this quest is like a random blue quest. It's Wymond. We all know Wymond. I mean, at least if you started in Ul'dah, you know Wymond.
Wymond is the cool shades know-it-all that just lounges by the Aetheryte Plaza.
He's like the man about town.
He has an auspicious quest name called The Rise and Fall of Gentlemen.
So this is like, you click on it and you're like, wherever we're going to go with this, that's where we're going to go. So just strap in, I suppose. So Wymond, our dear friend, has a dear friend of his own who needs some assistance. And have we ever heard of a man named Hildibrand? And a dialogue box pops up and asks you, have you heard of him? Have you not heard of him? And I was like, nope. And he's like, well, to hear him tell it, he was Eorzea's greatest and most famous inspector. And this is a little like across the pond kind of. Normally we would call them a detective, in Murica. So inspector, detective, that's kind of like the same genre. Private investigator.
Thank you for telling our listeners.
Well, yeah, like the most famous inspector. Like, does he inspect customs? Does he inspect homes? Does he inspect vermin? In
case you are confused, this is the mystery inspector.
Right.
But not anymore, because he dead.
He was. Yeah.
Given the height he fell from, it's a wonder there was a body left to bury at all. But that's beside the point. His former assistant Nashu is now a full-fledged investigator, and she is looking into some queer rumors. Wymond would help, but he prefers the living, not zombies.
And there it is. The name drop of zombies out of fucking nowhere. What is happening? Who are these people? What's going on?
We got zombies elsewhere too.
Sure. He's like, I don't want to help my friend because she's doing some zombie shit, and I don't really want to get into that. Like, oh, okay.
I don't know, I guess. It's hard to picture Wymond having friends so much as resources.
Maybe one turns into the other. And vice versa.
I guess.
He fucking knows everybody. Like, I don't know. Maybe they went to university together.
Him and Nashu?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
They did not. That was a joke.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so 5 years ago, Hildibrand apparently decided the calamity, Dalamud, all of that could be stopped if he found the hero from a prophecy, that prophecy being Messiah's seventh verse. And that hero is, luckily, none other than himself. So he launched himself at Dalamud and died. He wasn't doing that to save the world. He did it by accident because a gun misfired, just to be clear.
A gun halberd.
A gun halberd.
Yes.
What the fuck even is that?
It's a halberd.
A halberd with a gun on it?
Yes, pretty much, yes.
That seems
nailed it.
Unwieldy as fuck. Anyway, so All right, well, let's go help Nashu. So she's apparently hanging out in the Lich Yard, which is something that she's done for the last 5 years whenever she's having difficulty with something, just to maybe get some Hildibrand energy, aura, whatever. So she's kneeling at his gravestone and having some difficulty.
Nashu is wearing a monocle and a black jacket, adorned with a red rose. So she has fully assumed Hildibrand's job and...
Yep, she looks like an
shtick.
inspector. Well, a certain kind of inspector, but, you know.
And Inspector Hildibrand.
Right, because, you know, I think most of them wear, like, suits and trench coats.
But she stands over his grave, wishing that he was alive so he could figure out how to stop these zombies. But we come up and we say that we're here to help. She says welcome and introduces herself as Nashu, Agent of Inquiries and Extraordinary Inspector, not Detective Jen.
But she corrects herself and she's like, well, at least that's what I would like to be. Hildibrand made it look so easy. They traveled the world together, solving mysteries with his trademark grace and style. But it was the last case, the quote-unquote case of the century. And this is where Hildibrand launched himself into the moon and died. So, you know, when she says that, we're hit with an echo vision. And we see Nashu and a priest from the chapel. Apparently, Hildibrand was just buried, so she's like, you know, crying and saying that, man, you know, I feel like this is all a big joke. You're going to burst out of the ground and you're going to be like, aha, gotcha. And then everybody laughs and it's going to be great. Alas. So right then, she changes into her inspector's uniform and she promises to carry on his legacy. So when we come out of the flashback, apparently Nashu has been talking the whole time. So we get the tail end of what she's been saying, which is there's got to be like a head zombie, right? And the head zombie's telling all the other zombies what to do. So we need to find that guy and kill him. Again. Her great idea, then, is to find the band of dapper zombies in southern Thanalan, ingratiate ourselves, and then ask to be like, hey, can we meet your leader? And then we strike.
So we head over to a known zombie sighting in southern Thanalan and wait for the fate to pop. Fallen corpses writhe in style. And after the fate pops, it took me like a good 10 minutes. I was taking notes during it, so it was fine, but I just sat there in the fate zone for a long time before it popped for me.
Bummer. For me, the fate was already like hella in action, so I zoned in, wrote up. Though what I did, and I do this all the time when I'm in that particular section in the Sigoli Desert. So there's like a little tunnel, right, just north of Forgotten Springs, that you're like, oh, I can just take this little tunnel up into the upper half of southern Thanalan. You eventually will reach like a dude at a door and he's like, would you like to go through? And I'm like, yes. But then you end up in a totally different spot. And now you have to like you have to go way so far north before you can go back down south. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to miss the fate at this point because I'm so far out of whack. And I refused to etherate back to Forgotten Springs for some reason. I was like, I'm too far. I've gone too far. Now I have to backtrack so much. That stupid tunnel. Like, what even is the fucking point? It goes to it's the Nald shrine or whatever that's in there.
It's for the Black Mage quest line, I think.
Yeah, don't use it if you're trying to
it goes anywhere.
Go into the dapper zombie fate.
Yes.
Don't do it. You have to. I tried to go over the mountains.
It's too tall.
The first time, you can't. So I was like, okay, I'll use the tunnel then.
Just go to the right and around. You have to
go around, and I was trying so hard not to do that. Ended up wasting so much more time. Lessons learned.
Okay.
Like life lessons learned.
Well, anyway, when the fate pops or when you get there at the last minute, either way, we note, though, that something is amiss as we get the jazzy combat / spectral current music and not the normal fate music. The fate description is: a band of zombies has been exhibiting uncharacteristically civilized behavior of late, which has unnerved the people of Thanalan. Dispatch the dapper undead for the benefit of the living. Which I think is extremely rude.
Yeah, they're fine.
I mean, they're being
fancy.
Yeah, this is what we want from undead. We would like them to be
chill,
quote, dapper, gentlemanly,
Yeah.
We should encourage this
like
behavior,
reasonable, right.
not to put them down. But further, though, the zombies here, they're all wearing gray coatees, and they will periodically flex and say cryptic phrases such as, "Am I a gentleman yet?" Though having been sent here by Nashu to befriend the zombies, we proceed to use our one tool in our toolbox, and we beat them into submission, and we steal their stuff. The stuff in this case is a paper with a map and the words, "A gentleman is rather than does."
We go all the way back to the lich yard to give Nashu this parchment, and she's like, "Oh, hey, look at that. It's a clue." Because there's a mark on the map, and we literally have to go right back to where we were in the Sigolita. Well, close. We're at the southernmost point of southern Thanalan.
Yeah, it's the other way from Forgotten Springs, Jen.
Which is easy because it's just open sand. No canyons here. So we're there, and the spot where it is marked on the map is deserted, which is funny because it's desert.
Nice.
So she's like, well, let's call out to whoever might be listening and maybe lure the leader out, and then we'll strike. So there's a pop-up that gives us 3 options for things to say. 2 are wrong, 1 is correct. The correct option is to say the thing that was written on the parchment, which was, "A gentleman is rather than does." So when we say that, a quote-unquote deadpan zombie with a crown on his head walks out, and he's like, "Who summons the gentle dead men?" As opposed to the dead gentleman, but the gentle dead men. And then several other zombies pop out, and they encircle us, and they're all doing like the rah, brains kind of noises, and Nashu is like, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god."
Things are looking grim, but from atop a nearby ruin, someone calls out, "A gentleman does not dine upon his guests." We look over and see, flexing atop the narrowest spire of this ruined building's steeple, a man with a cracked monocle and very tattered finery. This person calls out. He is posed on 1 foot, doing the flex pose. This is a Dragoon tier balance.
Yep.
Who's this? Asthenian? But no, it's not.
Yeah.
This man says, "Spare these people your mastications. Withdraw, I say, and harass them no more." And the zombies all flex in perfect unison and retreat.
They hear, or they all flex in unison.
Do they think?
And then they chant, and then they're like,
Do they feel, Jen?
They heard, and they obeyed.
That's one of the 3 things.
Feeling and thinking, I don't know.
That is, everyone's being so rude to zombies today. Maybe not feel, but they definitely think. That's 2 of 3 things right there.
Okay.
2/3 of the way to the echo.
Yeah, it seems like they're reachable in some capacity, at least.
Anyway, Nashu is overjoyed. This mystery person is Hildibrand. She knew it. Nothing could kill the great inspector. Hildibrand, though, who has dismounted from the steeple, is confused. He doesn't recognize that name. He is Zombibrand, undead overlord extraordinaire.
Yeah, devourer of brains, undead overlord extraordinaire. And Nashu was like, "Nah, you're just confused. And I think what I'll do is knock some sense into you." And she brandishes a couple of bombs. And Zombiebrand, sorry, is like, "Please don't." And she looks at him and just gives him a wild grin, and the bombs light. And he's like, "No, for real, like, stop." And she's like, "Boop."
At the exact moment that she grins, the bombs ignite.
So great.
Simultaneously.
So great.
So
and
yes.
He's like, please don't kill me with the bombs. And she's like, "Whatever." She's like, if the fall made you forget, the explosion will make you remember. And if you die, well, it's going to be worth it. And she throws the bombs at him. This is the total Tom and Jerry moment. The bombs are like, boop. And his face is all distorted. And
This is our first Hildibrand expression. His mouth twists unnaturally wide in terror as the bombs descend.
But then it turns into like this, like, cartoon face. And we're like, okay, all right, I see what's going on here. The blast knocks him headfirst into the ground, and this is also like a classic Hildibrand pose where he's waist up, upside down in the ground, and his legs are sticking out in the air, and he's kicking around, and he has to pull himself out of this whatever. So he does that, and suddenly he remembers who Nashu is, and she's like, yay, I knew it. He looks at us for what I think is like the first time, and as soon as he does that, we're hit with another vision. Nashu is back at the gravesite again. Nashu is just leaving the grave, and there's like rain and thunder and lightning. Then there's like a rumbling in the ground, and a hand shoots up out of his fucking grave. And he climbs out of this grave and he dusts himself off, and he's like,
He's got a Nemea lily stuck in his hair.
That
Nashu, was left on the grave.
Nashu had just left it on his grave, walked away, and when he claws himself out of the grave, it's perched on his head now, which is funny.
So the music is very creepy here, and as Hildibrand surveys his surroundings, he doesn't know where he is or who he is. He's been amnesiaed, but zombies now approach, and the music gets more and more spooky. You know,
so these are all zombies in chainmail, you know, like they died in battle kind of a vibe.
Well, it's the zombies from the ruin to the east, that one like unearthed ruin by the Golden Bazaar, I think.
So they come up to him, and he's like, then he has like this realization, like, wait a second. And he looks behind him and he sees like his own grave, and he's like, oh, I'm dead. And then one of the guys, one of the zombies, and this is the zombie we just saw with the crown on his head. He reaches over to Hildibrand and he like pats him on the back, like, hey man, it's gonna be okay. You're one of us now. And then the other zombies are like giving him thumbs up, and they're like, yeah, man, you know, welcome to Zombie Town. Glad to have you or whatever. And he's like, yeah, okay, this is cool. So from there, we know then that the time between then and now has been spent teaching his zombie brethren how to be gentlemen. And he's gotten them new clothes.
Because the scene closes with Zombibrand giving a flex, and the zombies are stunned for a second.
Like, what?
Then they start
the
clapping.
Thing ever. Yeah. So like, okay, well, you're a leader now. And so, yeah, in the interim 5 years, well, it hasn't been 5 years. They found his body very recently. So let's assume an year, maybe 6 months, something like that. Anyway, so in that time, Hildibrand has been teaching them the ways of the gentleman, assuming that he himself is also a zombie and is their leader now.
But no, that time is over. He has been reawakened as himself, Hildibrand, agent of inquiry, inspector extraordinaire. He surveys us, wondering who our character is, but he's distracted. What is this faint tingling sensation in my arm? The ringing in my ears? This dizziness?
It's a heart attack.
It's a case. He uses his keen deductive skills to determine that the copious amounts of sand around us mean that we're in the Sigoli Desert, which means that Ul'dah is not too far away. And so, off to that den of iniquity we go.
Yep, that hive of scum and villainy.
Our character were along for the ride, and without being asked to, we just go to Ul'dah ourselves and start harassing random citizens, asking them for leads.
Well, not even for leads. We're like, have you seen Hildibrand? We're looking for him. So I pre-wrote that sentence. I'm like, all right, we go back to Ul'dah. We're going to ask the citizenry about like, what kind of weird rumors they've heard. But the first person I talked to, she's like, have I seen a guy in a tattered suit? Like, no. Do you think I hang out with perverts? No. And I'm like, oh, we're just asking around, like, if anybody has seen Hildibrand. That, I guess, is our initial question to these people, but then they kind of like go on like, I'm not really worried about some random guy in a crispy suit. I'm worried about this duelist guy who keeps stealing everybody's weapons. I'm like, oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, there's a rogue agent that stands outside of the Adventurers Guild all the time. His name is Silver Nettle. We actually get to talk to him this time. And he says, if you do manage to find this inspector friend of yours, tell him to do something about that God's damned duelist. My mate's pa's cousin's kid's best friend lost his blade the other day to that bastard. I'm like, all right, we're on it. So As per usual.
You just deadpan deliver that chain of relations, Jen.
Yeah. Be mates, pause, cousins, kids, best friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very smooth. Good job.
Thanks.
We're now, I guess, asking about this sword lead. We are also easily distracted. And we go and ask Wymond for more info. But we're soon joined by Hildy and Nashu. Nashu is now into her normal garb, pink boots, tights, and an A Realm Reborn ass half robe.
A half robe.
Yeah. Stops up just below the waist.
Yeah, it's like
It's one of the thaumaturge handouts. This outfit, I guess, it doesn't feel right for...
Inspector Assistant.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I wish that something about her appearance, I guess, kind of elevated her from beyond some generic NPC. Aside from that Band-Aid, you would not know from looking at her that she's any different from any of the other fetch quest givers out there.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. I can only guess that that's like on purpose because, you know, you kind of are always set up to, I guess, visually underestimate her. But we'll soon get the lay of the land on that.
Suppose it's not so much that she doesn't look, quote, cool or anything, because I agree with that she's actually a lot more resourceful than you would think. But it's more that she has such a shitty robe. Like, the robe itself is kind of trash, honestly. It's one of those original game items before any expansions or patches whatsoever. You can do a better non-assuming look these days than she has right now.
No, I agree.
That's my personal soapbox, irrelevant to the point.
Yep. Yeah, not incredibly distinctive, but I'm guessing there's there's a reason for that, but it is what it is.
Anyway, yeah, so she's back in her assistant's gear, and Wymond is shocked about Hildy being back, being resurrected, but they brush it aside and they press him for details on this lead, this duelist. Wymond says, well, it's not much, but there's some talk of a maiden who... And at the very suggestion of a damsel in distress, Hildy is in full action mode. They're on the case. He needs to fly to her side immediately. And then he sees us, though, standing there. He assumes that we're here to scoop the case from him. And he says, fine, challenge accepted. May the best detective win.
All right. And then they leave. And Wymond is like, bro, I didn't even fucking tell you her name. He'll tell us, though, because we're hanging out. The woman's name is Yellow Moon. We know Yellow Moon. We can probably find her at the Weavers Guild getting fitted for something or other. We sure can.
This is the red-haired, fashionable Rogadin.
It's pink. It's pink-haired.
Fine.
And she's got, the yellow bleed on whatever it's called. So we talk to her. And she tells us that her beloved wand, named Pure Heart, was stolen. And as she's talking to us, the camera kind of pans over and we see Hildibrand in the background. He's found us somehow. And he's, flexing in the background, whatever. He kind of immediately makes it weird. I swear to you, here and now, I, Hildibrand, agent of inquiry, Inspector Extraordinaire, shall scour all creation from the deepest pit of the seven hells to the very pinnacle of the heavens for your pure heart. And we're all like, Yellow Moon corrects him though, and she's like, there were thefts, plural. And she's like, I swear I had it. I just had it. I went to Sun Silk Tapestries, and then I went to the Colosseum. And then I realized my wand was gone, and he's like, okay, well, without knowing the exact time and place of the theft, we can't solve the crime, so we're going to have you walk through your day step by step, and hopefully we can figure it out. So, back to Sunsilk Tapestries we go, and Nashu is chilling on top of a pile of crates.
There's a thing she does that doesn't, I think, ever pay off unless it happens in the future, because she is falling asleep on there. And there's a later scene too where, everyone disperses and the characters are doing like asking around type animations. And Nashu is standing by one of the NPCs and she's like falling asleep standing too. But this doesn't go anywhere. So I'm guessing it's just like a visual gag, but you can see her nodding off while she's on these crates.
Yeah, maybe I didn't notice that. It just seemed like she was kind of maybe a little bit preoccupied. Or it may have been that I don't know. That's
like I said, I think it's just for fun because there's nothing that happens in this segment that ties to her being sleepy.
Maybe it's just kind of informing us about the general.
Maybe being around Hildibrand is exhausting.
Caliber of investigations we're going to see.
Perhaps.
So Yellow Moon is at Sunlook Tapestries, kind of walking through her time there, and she's like, "There's nothing weird happened except for that one guy who walked up to me and confessed his undying love." And, I was so startled by this that I dropped my purse, landed on his foot. He cried out in pain, and then he ran away. And Hildibrand is like, "That's a little weird, but I don't think it has anything to do with this case. So let's go on to the Coliseum." So we're on to the Coliseum. Nashu is looking at yet another pile of crates at this location. And Hildibrand is walking Yellow Moon through her activities at the Coliseum. She was trying to figure out which match to watch when a gladiator approached and confessed his undying love. And she was so startled that she whipped around and smacked this guy in his face with her purse, and it knocked him out because her purse weighed 120 fucking ponzas. Well, she's a Rogate, and that's probably just like whatever, a Tuesday. She's like, "I had a lot of money in my purse, and it weighed 6 scored ponzas, and I knocked him out." And
after hearing this, Hildibrand is prepared to make his conclusion.
Yeah, I figured it out. I got it.
Yellow Moon packing that kind of weight in her purse must be strong. And she must have been targeted by the thief because the thief bore her a grudge. Nay, hated her with a passion. And he's got all the clues. The heavy purse, the gladiator. That's it pretty much.
Yep.
He goes into his mind palace, which is to say that he flexes and he points at his head with both fingers and holds that pose. While he's in the midst of his deductions, Nashu observes that there are a lot of crates lying around. What's with that? We should go check them out, but we have no pry bar.
We should open them up. You know what? I got bombs. Let's bomb them open. Okay. So we do. The crates are full of men. Robed men and yellow-robed men.
Jen, these are perspiring men.
Yeah, it's sweaty in a crate in the desert.
Also on the ground, next to these perspiring men, is a wand. It must be the stolen wand. But before we can interrogate them, Hildibrand erupts into a masterful conclusion. He has determined that the gladiator, wounded in pride and in body, stole the wand in retaliation. But Nashu cries out, "No, it's these creeps. They took it. It's right there on the ground."
So the men, they're like, no, it's not what it looks like. We're not thieves. We are devotees of Yellow Moon. We're the cult that adores the goddess that is Yellow Moon. And every time they see her drop something, they're like, "Oh gosh, okay." They grab it for her and they hold it for safekeeping so that nobody else will steal it. And Yellow Moon is like, "You guys have been stalking me this entire time? That's bullshit." So then she chases after them.
Such unbridled fury, such righteous indignation. We should be glad to accept the goddess's punishment.
Great. Good. Gross. So then she runs after them, and it's, yakety sacks away with them. Hildibrand and Nashu stand there and congratulate Hildibrand.
Yes, Hildibrand says it was a stroke of genius that I had Nashu search those crates.
Exactly, and Nashu agrees. Yes, sir, it was genius.
And obviously the fiends that stole her wand are behind the weapon thefts as well.
And now a new voice joins the conversation. "Those thefts were undertaken by a single person, you idiot." And a well-informed woman walks up. She says, the duelist challenges folks to battle, then takes their weapons when they lose. It's not the work of a bunch of Yellow Moon fanboys. This woman's name is Ellie, and she's a reporter with the Mithril Eye, as they all are. And she's been investigating the thefts.
There's more than one paper, Jen.
I know, but it's always the Mithril Eye.
In Uldad is...
I can't think of any other publications.
There is one per major city. But I do agree, we do seem to get most of our journalist leads in Ul'dah.
Well, whatever they're doing marketing-wise is working, because I can only think of them.
Nailed it. Ellie is a purple-haired healer in a white tunic and a feathered cap.
So she's been investigating these thefts for weeks. She offers to introduce Hildibrand to one of the duelist's victims, and he graciously accepts. Oh, how generous of you.
Your generosity is commendable, Miss Ellie. May this mark the beginning of a long and beautiful friendship. Yes, she replies. The victim is...
But before she can say, once again, Hildibrand and Nashu are so excited, they run away before getting any information whatsoever. So Ellie's like, I guess I'll tell you then, and if they show up, then good for them. But the guy you're looking for is named Humphrey. He's not just a victim, he's also a perpetrator, so that'll be fun. He's hanging out at the Golden Bazaar.
This place is essentially a ghost town, you might recall from A Realm Reborn, the MSQ, where this place was once like a mining town, but it dried up, and so it's kind of like a shit heap now.
So that's like post-calamity stuff, and also I think allied society issues. So people aren't really using it as
allied society issues. That I know exactly what you mean, but it feels it's gone through like 3 layers of revision.
Yeah, I mean technically the issues are being had not with the allied section of this society, but like
it's the Amalja.
The antagonistic segment. So yeah, so when we're doing when we're working with the good ones.
Oh my god. That's not any better than all the other.
I know, it's such a loaded thing. It's hard to just talk about it.
But the name Allied Society feels so awkward on the lips.
It's a little try hard in my opinion, but it's fine. So that's not necessarily the Golden Bazaar is not half deserted anymore because of Allied Society problems. It's just it's exposed. They don't have a lot of protection. They're constantly under threat of the Amalja. And in fact, while I was there, a group of Amalja made their way inside and started fighting bitches. There's a fate that just pops up in the middle of the bazaar. So that was,
that society don't seem so allied to me.
Correct.
But anyway, that's well off the mark. We're going to the Golden Bazaar, which is where this Humphrey guy is, who was beaten by the duelist. But also apparently he's a perpetrator too.
That's what Ellie said. We don't know
bad vibes.
What that means. So he's a young blonde dude, and he's fully armored up. He looks like he's well funded. And we're like, hey, are you? Oh, well, we find him. Hildibrand and Nashu somehow walk up at this moment.
Jen, he is a extraordinary inspector.
Apparently,
he can sniff a clue miles away.
You know what? He's doing something. So he arrives, and Hildibrand asks him, hey, were you the guy that was recently victimized by the duelist? And Humphrey is like, a victim? No, that's stupid.
I can't understand your accent.
The duelist did challenge him, expecting an easy win. However, he didn't know that he was up against the fucking warrior of light. And he branches his sword and his shield, and
Nashu claps.
And yeah, Nashu, I love the patronizing. She's not doing it to be patronizing, but it's fucking perfect. She's like, "Oh my god, yay! Congratulations on your victory!" And he's like, "Yeah, man, it was real good, but this was nothing compared to what I've experienced at Cart. No." And me and my mage friend,
Magitech to the right of us, Magitech to the left.
Magitech to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with Lou. Master Lou, to be precise. Humphrey's mage friend. And, his mage friend, he's good at magic, but, we were surrounded, and I fought valiantly to save my friend, but, there's a limit to how many giant beasties a man can. We're interrupted with Ellie yelling, "That man is no warrior of light." And she walks up with an older man. Bald man,
this man is hella bald. He
shiny, dome bald. And
his
it's
face
jarring.
Is so creased, and the bald head plus the hella wrinkled face is
it draws your attention so fast because his scalp is so pristine and smooth and clean. And you're like, okay, that raw, bare scalp of his has not seen the light of day, so what's up?
The bald man, Elazar, trusted Humphrey with his father's blade to take it to a smith for restoration, and he paid Humphrey for it too. But Humphrey lost the sword and came back sniveling.
He lost the sword in the duel.
Yeah.
And came back and he was like, I lost your sword in the duel. I'm so sorry. And the guy's like, okay, how are you going to make it right? I don't know. I'm just sorry.
And look, cries Eleazar, I've lost me full head of hair. My flowing locks are no more.
The stress and the heartbreak from the ordeal, just all of his hair fell out. And he's like, I swear revenge. I will revenge you. And Humphrey's like, all right. I was beaten pretty badly by the duelist. He took the old man's sword, and I spent the Smitty money on chirurgeon. And, you know, the duelist, I don't know where they are. The sword, who knows? I got nothing. I can't return something I don't have.
Worry not, though, Jen, because Hildibrand is on the case. But Ellie is dumbstruck. You would help this fraud? Hildibrand is undeterred. How will forsaking Humphrey help to restore Eleazar's locks? We must solve the case for the sake of this man's hair.
He's not wrong. Yeah. So the search begins. We're going to ask the people of the Golden Bazaar what we might do here.
This is the other investigation scene where Nashu is falling asleep on the job.
It is dry.
Jim was falling asleep, am I right?
Yeah. Okay. So we talked to, 3 people. And the general consensus is, they feel bad for Eleazar, but, maybe we could give him like a fake sword so that he could feel better just, in the days before death, because apparently he's old. He's old. He's gonna die soon. Also, adventurers proclaiming to be the warrior of light, scum of the earth. Don't like them. Okay. And there is an antiques merchant named Jojon Pa. They might have something for us. Who knows? So we gotta talk to that guy. That's when, like, literally this guy is standing in the middle of the fate, and there's like a Malja battle happening as I'm talking to this merchant guy, and we don't care.
It's just Tuesday.
Yeah, that's the vibe. I'm like, yeah, checks out. So Jojon Pa doesn't have any cool, authentic antique swords right now. He gets a lot of fakes though, and when he gets a fake, he tosses it in the nearby spring.
I don't understand this business model. If he's getting a fake, I'm assuming he's buying them. So how else would he acquire these fakes? It's very strange. Like, I keep getting all these fakes, I throw them in the spring after I find out they're fakes. I don't know. His model of making money, I find to be
unless
dubious.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he did pay like a little bit of money, and he's like, bah. Or maybe somebody like gave it to him like in a trade with a bunch of other stuff.
Maybe. It's not detailed. It's very funny that he gets all these fakes and throws them in this one spring.
Yeah, I'll just throw it in some water.
Hildibrand doesn't want to lie to Eleazar, but then again, maybe getting him a fake sword would help to maintain his health and to restore his glorious locks until we find the real sword. So we hop on over to that spring. It's the same one that we had the showdown with the Amalja press-ganger guy. And the MSQ.
The guy with the stupid haircut.
Yep. That guy. Brillo hair, I think, is what Jane calls him.
That's right. We're all there. Ellie's in the water. Nashu's in the water. Everybody's in the water except Hildibrand. And he's like, I can't get in this water because I'm still like covered in wounds. And what my mom used to do was put salamander oil all over my wounds and massage them and all that stuff. So the insinuation is like, hey, you put some salamander oil on my body. I'm like, okay. So we do that. And then he's like, but you got to massage it in though. So we do that. And he's like, no, it's too rough. It's too rough. You got to do gently. And I'm like, oh, okay. We massage it again. He's like, all right. Yeah. That's working. So we're massaging and massaging and massaging and massaging. And at long last, he's like, okay, all right, I feel great. I'm going to get in this water.
Pain becomes pleasure.
Gross. Yeah, his commentary was getting more and more questionable. But yay, now we can get in the water. Okay, so now we're all in the water looking for stuff. So yeah, we find some useless stuff. I'm like, why are you even picking this up? We're not looking for a pot. We're not looking for a broken bottle. We're not looking for a literal rock.
Jen loves to say, I got a rock.
And
now you did.
Yeah, it finally happened. And so we go back to Hildibrand with this garbage, and he's like, what'd you find? And we have to hand these items over, like with the official hand over dialogue box. And if you look at the tooltips on all of them, each one is like an admonishment of like, I am garbage. Why are you giving me to anybody? Which I thought was great. So we turn him over and he's like, this is not the stuff.
But just then, Nashu slips in the water. It's something weird underfoot.
She's like, she trips and falls and now she's totally drenched. She's like, the fuck? And Ellie's like, did you walk on something? You did. Hey, look at that.
And
It's
Nashu pulls out the sword.
She actually doesn't. She just sits there looking at it. Nobody pulls it out.
Whatever.
Yep.
Hildibrand is just about to take credit for having told Nashu to check over there when he sneezes. Nashu remarks that his tattered clothing isn't doing him any favors, so she's going to go and get him some new clothing from Ulda, and he asks her to grab some hair tonic for Elazar while she's at it.
Nice.
So we grab the sword now from the water djinn, and we head back to Elazar. And we're all assembled inside Elazar's home except for Nashu. So he's got like this one room house in the Golden Bazaar. Elazar's there, Godfrey's there, Hildibrand, Ellie, and ourselves.
Godfrey? You mean Humphrey?
Sorry, yes, Humphrey.
Mm-hmm.
And we pass over the sword. It looks just like the real one. Every nick and scratch, it's perfect. And Elazar is convinced that we've brought back his father's sword.
Hooray! Ellie is pleasantly surprised at like Hildibrand's whole deal. Like he's doing all this work for nothing. It's just she's enjoying his altruism.
She's impressed by his altruism, but she's not impressed by his current dress.
Fair.
On cue, Nashu walks in with a change and a tray full of hair tonic that she bought in Pearl Lane.
Yeah, like 16 bottles.
A place for very honest transactions.
Absolutely. So these are going to be great for Elazar to put on his head.
Everyone takes their stuff and everyone's happy all around. But we sense something outside the door. There's a whirl of air and a red and black card bearing a stylized A and mask sigil goes sailing from the open door past our character's face and embeds itself in Hildibrand's forehead. Everyone's stunned for a moment, but we soon recover.
Hildibrand says, there appears to be something lodged in my forehead.
His priority straight, though. Elazar, seeing Hildibrand's not dead apparently, pops open that tonic and starts to dump it literally upon his scalp.
So this is all like that's all going on in the background. So we're like this we're at the open door. We sense a presence. We turn. This card goes flying past our face and goes thunk right into his fucking face. Like an inch of it into his face. And he moves not at all, you know. There appears to be something lodged in my forehead. Perhaps it is a missive from one of my many admirers. And he plucks it out of his face and he's looking at it. He's like, It says, there's a note on it. And it says, I shall come to claim the collector's blade. And he's like, is that supposed to be flattering?
It's supposed to be intimidating, snaps Ellie.
Yeah, like, bro, that's a challenge from the duelist. He's like, he's daring you to stop him. And again, in the background, Elazar, just bottle after bottle, he's dousing his dome with tonic and slapping it. He's like slapping it all into all of his dormant follicles.
But having been brought aware to the fact that the card is from the duelist, Hildibrand realizes that it's a challenge. At last, the curtain rises. But he must dress for the occasion. And so, Hildibrand bends down to change. He bends down to that box that Nashu brought him, full of his new outfit. And just then, Elazar's hair tonic kicks in. His bald head erupts in a burst of light, and Hildibrand stands up, fully dressed now in his brand new gentlemanly wear.
Resplendent and backlit by glossy baldness.
The explosion of light from Elazar's well-tonicked head shines like a radiant sun behind Hildibrand. And Hildibrand flexes, giving us a gentlemanly grin and a swing as his teeth glisten.
He's back, baby.
Humphrey.
So is Elazar's hair.
Humphrey is awestruck. So bold, so majestic, just like a warrior of light. No, a gentleman of light.
So yeah, he's back. He's got his outfit. He's got his confidence. He's got a challenge waiting for him.
The glow fades, and we see Elazar's scalp now full of thick, luscious hair. But an unknown person spies on us from outside the house. They utter, Hildibrand.
Yeah, the mysterious, featureless person, all in black. It's like a void. It may as well be a void.
Void humanoid.
Yeah.
The scene cuts to elsewhere in Thanalan. We see some drama unfolding. A gladiator falls to the ground. Their sword thunks into the earth beside them. Someone says, "This is far from the strongest of swords." And they march away from the fallen person. We glimpse their back. This is a massive person wearing a red cloak with horns that curve upwards from their head. They carry a long halberd, and their pants are incredibly poofy.
Yeah. It's this guy, whoever this is probably the duelist. And he asks himself, how much longer must I seek the sword of legend? And that's
it.
The end of that. For this patch, anyway.
Yes. Now we get the actual, splash screen here. The Hildibrand theme music kicks up, and we get a Hildibrand will return in the 3 collectors. Following that, there's a little bit of sneak previews of the next bit of content. Some little vignettes.
Yeah, it's like it's like this little, like a little TV miniseries or whatever.
So this is when it becomes apparent, finally, for those who have no idea what's going on, that this is essentially a miniseries and not just some weird-ass giant quest line.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's no, except for the fate, it's just story. You're not fighting anything. It's just, it's purely narrative driven.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought this was kind of great, actually.
So I recalled this in my memory being much more wordy and a Realm Reborn-ass than it was. But actually, in replaying it, I did not feel there was any real wasted moments in this bit. Everything that happened served the build-up, and all the dialogue was either jokes or it was there to drive the story forward. There are no tasky interludes, I'd say, that do not serve a broader purpose, so I was actually very impressed. I think my recollection was mainly based on the fact that I just didn't know what I was doing the first time I encountered this.
Yeah.
But honestly, for ARR, it's actually very polished.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the jokes are all in service of explaining who these people are, and even like there's little subtle things that are kind of mild foreshadowing, like Nashu chilling with the crates, and like, she's onto something there. What's that? And then that pays off.
Yeah.
And we get a couple of like red herrings thrown at us. Like, we think the duelist is doing this shit, but no, it happens to be like a weird Yellow Moon cult. And even the card thrower guy, like, oh, it's the duelist. But then we get that final scene. We're like, he's not the duelist. So who's this mystery guy? What's his deal? Why is he suddenly after the collector's sword? But then there's also this other guy looking for swords. Like, what the fuck is happening? So it's a lot. And it's great. Keeps you on your toes.
Yeah.
And you're like, how many more mysteries will this guy stumble into solving?
A lot. Spoiler.
Yeah. All thanks to the people he surrounds himself with.
Yes and no. He, or I guess Nashu, who is essential to his success, they will come across something themselves and maybe not understand what it means, but it does give them enough of a stumble forward to get to the next discovery, the next clue, whatever. And also, I think they kind of played up a lot more here than later on, but they obviously do have comedy protagonist luck too, where they'll go running off when someone says a clue exists, but then they arrive in the correct place at the correct time.
Right. He also was buried and was alive the whole time. So just don't be pedantic.
Hildibrand, don't be pedantic.
Yeah. Just let it ride.
Some people are not a fan whatsoever. Also, some people have just like done it and skipped all the cutscenes too, I know. Which, if you don't like it, then fine.
But yeah, there's plenty of other shit to do, yeah.
But it's worth a shot. The thing is, though, that this quest line gates important content in several ways. So one, eventually the relic quest line becomes tied to this, and you have to do all of the Hildibrand content to actually do the Endwalker relic weapon. And it was like a lot to kind of make semi-required, but they did it.
Well, if you're going to do relic anything, understand that there's going to be a lot of bullshit that you're going to have to do. So
Also, there are full-on group content, curated Hildibrand special trials in the game that only people who have done this long series have access to. And besides just being more game to play, it's also pretty critical for Blue Mage. So if you are planning to be a Blue Mage, or if you are a Blue Mage, you will want to do Hildibrand to get access to the Blue Mage spells from that content.
do we have Hildibrand unlocked spells in our Blue Mage kit?
Yes. Well, I don't know about you, Jen. I do.
I can't think of what that is. Yeah.
Any other thoughts for now, Jen?
I don't think so.
Okay.
And that will do it for today's episode. Thank you all so much for listening and being dapper, gentle people. If you want to get in touch with us, you can at podreturnffxiv@gmail.com. Check the show notes for our Discord. You can join up, organize some group runs, join us for some group runs, share your glams, talk about whatever. Everybody's super awesome and you should check it out. And we also have our Patreon, patreon.com/podreturnffxiv. And for $1 a month, you get access to all of our other stuff that we publish, which is the Final Fantasy XI series, Vana'diel Vansplainer. We have the seasonal events and other stuff like the tabletop RPG and the card game. We talk about it there too, so give it a listen. And with that, we hope you enjoyed the episode. Have a good day or night, and we will see you next time.
Pod Return will return in The Three Collectors.